I mean, again, so what we found out essentially is that the pro-theocracy people will say anything. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
yes, they will.
And the irony of their position is that they are trying to argue that the reason we should keep religious phrases in these public and compulsory recitations of the pledge is because they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
But they're somehow mean enough to make you get off your lazy butt and write an amicus brief, hire a lawyer, get it printed for a couple $1,000s, and get it sent to the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Right.
It obviously means something.
Yeah, you've got a lot of trouble that they're going to for something that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
So I had a lot of fun writing the ACA's amicus brief. What I did specifically was list those arguments, and explain why they were facetious, and I'm happy to and proud to say that a lot of that has made it into the final legalized version. Of the document that will be submitted. The deadline for submitting the briefs is February 12th, which happens to be Darwin's Day. It was very nice, and then the oral arguments before the Supreme Court in this case will begin on March 24.
Right. So, well, maybe if we can, we might get your original first draft of it, and we can maybe put that up on the webpage if that's all right. If that can be done, for people to read.
And more importantly, I think the actual legalized version that we're going to get from the lawyer that's putting it together.
Will we be able to do that if it hasn't, if something that's like about to be argued? It's just an amicus brief. Maybe
absolutely. There's nothing secret about these. It's just not done yet. Right? The lawyer's still working.
Right. Okay, but obviously you've been getting regular, updates on how it's going because well, that's terrific. So
I'd definitely like to see a copy of one.
Yeah. Well, we'll be sure to get that. And March 24th is a big day. Now, what a lot of people, what's very tricky, right, is that we already have one far right wing justice who has recused himself. Interestingly.
Thankfully.
He went on the record saying, that he had, they already had an opinion about how this ought to come out, which is a no-no for judges. You don't go in, as a judge, your job is to not be biased. And he expressed a bias. And Newdow called him on it, and he backed off. Which means we're short one Supreme Court justice. And
he has got to be kicking himself so hard now because I'm sure he would like his opinion in the final decision.
There's a time to keep your mouth
shut.
But what is interesting now is that if the decision, if it turns out 3-3,
or 4-4.
4-4.
4-4. There's right. There's 9, not 7.
If the decision is split.
Right. If it's split right down the middle, then it stands.
Right. The Ninth Circuit Court.
The original ruling that pissed off all everybody, that stands. And that is probably going to be pretty difficult for some people to comprehend and to fathom.
Well, I just have to ask religious folks out there to, relax. We're not, nobody is, there's all these claims going around that there's some kind of assault on religion going on.
They're trying to take God out of America.
No, there is an increasing number of people who are not Christians who have noticed that they're not being treated with equal rights by the government, and they're asking for their rights to be respected. And there's just a bunch of stuff that Christians have done over the years that they've gotten away with because it hasn't been challenged before, and that's being knocked down because it's illegal. That's all this is. Right?
And
you are free to go on believing whatever you want, but now that it's being challenged and it wasn't constitutional in the first place, it's going to have to come down.
But the Christians are going to listen to the Roy Moores of the world who will say things like, today it's my monument, tomorrow it's your church. They don't make that decision.
It's just not true. It's just not true.
It's fear-mongering. That's all it is.
Christians having a church does not impede my rights at all. Now, Christians having a church and having special dispensation on land use issues. Like they got in the Ruluipa ruling, religious land use, blah 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 thing, right? I mean, that does tread on my rights because that's giving special rights to religion, and that's going to have to come down. But just having a church, just believe in what you want to believe, doesn't bother me a bit. Go right ahead.
But they won't. What's amazing is they won't listen to you when you say, look, no one is trying to tell you that you can't believe in your God. No one's trying to tell you you can't have church services. No one's trying to tell you that you can't have a nativity scene in your lawn. No one's trying to tell you that you can't wear a cross pendant.
Because they love that word public. They love how the government is considered public, and so we can't have any public expression of religion.
But they're confused. Yeah. There's a difference between what you do on your own front lawn and what the government does.
The higher ups understand this, and they're just using that phrase because it so conveniently scares the hell out of everybody else.
Yeah. Because they can use it in such a way to make you think any expression of religion outside of your bedroom.
Exactly.
They don't make the distinction between government, what the government can do in regards to religion and what it can't do, and what any sort of free citizen can do.
Roy Moore can put up his 5-ton monument on his front lawn.
Nobody would have touched it.
Nobody's got a problem.
Nobody could have cared less.
Exactly. I could not care less. Have it up there. Go for it.
And
Make
I have
it 3
tried.
times bigger.
I have tried via email to explain this very calmly to people who are Roy Moore supporters and to the fundamentalist Christians, and they're just like, "No, you're out there to form a police state." So
they're being told that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They are being fed that line, and I think what we're seeing is the consequence of the part of religion, sort of in general, but Christianity in particular, that plays on a persecution complex.
Yes.
Right. I mean, a lot of Christianity is about how they succeeded in spite of the persecution of the Romans and stuff, and that's very important to them.
Why can't they just...
But it's unfortunate if it gets so important that they start imagining persecution where none is happening.
Yeah. Why can't they just give up? And Jesus didn't win out on his persecution, so why do they have to win? Why can't they just back down? Jesus didn't win against persecution and go to court and get out free.
Well,
he was sent to the cross.
But it was ultimately.
Why can't the Christians just lose?
But that was supposed to happen.
They can just as easily ask that of us.
Yeah,
right.
Sure,
why don't we atheists just give in? Just go ahead, play along, believe in the God, keep our traps shut.
Yeah. That's what it is.
I mean, they have a right.
Sure,
they have a right to argue their position. They certainly do.
Of course.
But it's when it gets shrill and irrational that there's a problem.
And if the arguments are specious, they're going to get called on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part they don't like.
I hope that if we make bad arguments, that people will call on us and correct us.
Sure.
Exactly.
But
I hope that, and I hope that we don't get so, we don't latch onto some persecution complex where we start thinking that the only reason that people disagree with us is because we're biased. Well.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, that was a lot of good stuff, and
Thank you.
Very worthwhile, and congratulations on the work you did.
It's been a privilege being able to be involved in this, and it's a very exciting thing for the ACA to do, and this is one for the history books.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out. On the 24th will be a very interesting day. I have no idea how long it will take a decision to come down, but certainly they'll be hearing arguments on that day, and so we'll be keeping whatever's up to date on that.
Definitely.
You'll hear it from us. Okay.